104.5 The Team. We are your home for New York sports, but big news. The biggest news probably in all of sports right now is Grayson Allen and Duke. So we go down to 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh, and we got Joe Ovios with us. Joe, I have been unapologetically against Grayson Allen since the first time he tripped someone on the court. Am I actually missing something? People seem to think there might actually be an issue with him mentally right now.
Well, I mean, that's probably going a bit too far to get into a guy's head, but I do think it is fair to wonder why this continues to happen. You had the two registered incidents last year, followed by one that really only got social media play. I think it was Makai Mason in the NCAA tournament, where at least it looked like he tried to. And Duke went through the narrative change. I know Dana O'Neill wrote a very somber piece about Grayson Allen before the start of the season, about how he was remorseful and how he learned his lesson and everything else. So the fact that it happened against Elon, of all teams, on a random Wednesday night tells you that none of those lessons were learned, and it's fair to criticize Grayson Allen and this being a him problem more than anything else. So with Mike Krzyzewski suspending him indefinitely today, that's probably the first step to seeing if this message actually goes through once and for all. Because if it doesn't, we're going beyond just how he affects Duke's team going forward, a team that's loaded when 100% healthy, could very well make it to a Final Four if things go the right way, to him actually affecting his draft status. Because you guys got to remember that when Duke won the national championship a couple of years ago, he came off the bench and was a spark for them. And there was legitimate discussion that he could actually go in the first round just based on what he did in the tournament alone, because he had all the measurables. So now we're getting into a discussion of, all right, well, if this guy's a hothead, why do we want him going up against grown dudes in the NBA where they might not be as kind? If you kind of catch my drift, with players on the court.
How do his teammates view him? Has there ever been stories about him getting into rifts in practice with some of his teammates?
No, I mean there's been none of that. I mean the more interesting thing came out of Luke Kennard last night, who's had an incredible start to the season. He's probably making himself some money this year, about how the entire team isn't really gelling right now, and that's understandable. I mean the whole entire lead up to ACC play for Duke was, when are they going to get all their guys healthy? And now that they're here, they have to figure all those guys out. Like, what's their rotation? How are they going to play together? I mean, these are things that Mike Krzyzewski has been telling everybody. If they decide to listen to what Mike Krzyzewski's saying, they'll kind of know that this was expected. You don't expect to see them struggling against Tennessee State and Elon headed into ACC play. But I think it'll work itself out. As far as Grayson's concerned, I think ultimately they have his back. They kind of understand that the dude's like a nonstop competitor. They probably see it in practice every day. I mean, hell, I think Emil Jefferson pretty much got a dose of it in the blue-white game at the beginning of the season where he was all over him. So I think they kind of expect it. They probably like it. When it affects what happens on the court, maybe they have a different answer. But right now, it's only one instance. We'll see how long this indefinite suspension lasts.
104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. We're reaching down to our buddy Joe Ovios, 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh. So the team is, trying to find a way to gel. I know every Duke fan I've ever met, this is the kind of thing that usually emboldens them. Like, you know what, you just don't get Grayson Allen. That's your problem. He's a competitor. Are the fans there starting to get a little tired of the tripping and the temper tantrum?
Yes and no. I think the more logical, rational Duke fans understand that Grayson Allen has an accountability issue here, and that he's going to have to, again, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, Grayson Allen has to answer for Grayson Allen. Duke can only protect him so much. And I think a lot of rational Duke fans understand that. But, I mean, this isn't isolated to Duke fans. I mean, tell me a fan base on social media that doesn't ride for their guy regardless of what happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm sure, I saw this with Syracuse when they were going through their academic scandal, where everybody was making all sorts of excuses. And I got plenty of, what about North Carolina? Their academic scandal. So fans are going to fan. I'm not going to get too wrapped up in that. Unfortunately for Grayson Allen, though, it has put a certain subsection of Duke fans in a position where there's always more context. And unfortunately for Duke, if you're the scrappy white guy who has a chip on his shoulder and you're diving all over the court and you have a face that looks like Ted Cruz, well, guess what? you're gonna get ripped. You're gonna have people all over you. I mean, Grayson Allen unfortunately has to deal with that too. But again, guys go to Duke knowing this. And that's my curiosity with Grayson Allen. This is not the first Duke player that has received a ton of criticism for his brash play. But where Grayson Allen differs from, say, the like of J.J. Redick to a certain extent, and really, if you want to go all the way back, Christian Laettner, those two guys enjoyed, or at least put on the front, that they embraced the backlash, that they embraced the fact that they knew that their play got under the skin of not just the players but the fans, and they used that to fuel them. For lack of a better term, Christian Laettner embraced the wrestling heel role better than anybody else in college basketball. Grayson Allen, unfortunately, looks like a guy who can't have it both ways. That he wants to be this guy who leaves it all on the court, but the minute there's pushback, the meltdown that you saw against Elon pretty much tells you who he really is. And ultimately, that's where I have the problem. The trip is what it is. Look, Justice Winslow was tripping guys, and nobody blinked an eye. The fact that he had this meltdown on the court, ultimately, I think that's why he got suspended. It wasn't for the trip. It's because he basically embarrassed Mike Krzyzewski with the way he handled himself. And that's the thing that I'm most concerned with Grayson Allen, and that's why I think most fans are having this reaction with Grayson Allen.
The fact that Joe Ovios can weave both my beloved Syracuse Orange and WWE talk into one answer makes him one of our favorite guests we ever have on the show. So, Joe, I'm going to ask you this question. The suspension is listed as indefinitely. Do we have any type of time frame of what that's going to be?
Nah, I mean, they're off for 10 days. Their next game is against, I think it's Virginia Tech, if I look at the schedule right. When you suspend a guy indefinitely, my assumption would be that he's going to miss at least one game. And that's fine. I mean, I don't think he should be suspended any games. If Mike Krzyzewski handled this the right way, if you're sitting here talking about how what he did was unacceptable, that's his word. I believe he told the Duke radio network that it was inexcusable, then you shouldn't have put him back in the game against Elon. If he benches him for the rest of the game, we're probably not talking about a suspension. But because of the way it was handled last night and because of his reaction, they're put in a position where they're going to have to suspend him one game to at least show to everybody, regardless of what Mike Krzyzewski says, that he's going to punish guys the way he feels like he's going to have to punish them. In order to make this story go away, you're going to have him sit one game. After that, and look, no offense to Jay Williams or Seth Greenberg. I mean, they're guests on our program plenty of times. The idea that you're going to suspend them 5 games is ridiculous. That's just where the Duke angle comes into play. Because you can go across for things that guys have done that were worse than Grayson Allen, and they haven't been suspended for 5 games. And while there is an accumulation factor, because if you go back to last year, that's where I think he should have just sat the rest of the game and maybe sat out one other game. But 5 games, that's crazy talk. I don't buy that. People need to get off that.
Joe, do you think that Coach K maybe put him back in the game because he is a little overprotective of that, quote, scrappy white Duke player that everybody hates?
I don't know. I don't know why he put him back in the game. I know in the comments last night, he wasn't just singling out Grayson Allen for losing his composure, but then again, that's a good coach protecting his guy. That's what good coaches do. Putting him back in the game is the only questionable thing. And maybe, when you have a chance to sit down, look at the tape, because again, you're also asking these coaches who have a million other things going on. And again, your listeners might think I'm trying to apologize for Mike Krzyzewski. I'm not. I'm just trying to set context for how these things typically work.
Right.
Coaches have a million different things going on, including other players, who they win, and how they look on tape. It's entirely possible that Mike Krzyzewski had no idea in real time that Grayson Allen was losing his mind on the bench. The only person, based on the replays, that had an idea of what was going on, John Shire, and John Shire had to sit there and calm him down. So who's to say that in the last 24 hours overnight, when they're looking at the tape, they're looking at everything, taking all the information in, that's when they decide, okay, we're going to have to sit him for maybe one game. So I'm trying to give Krzyzewski the benefit of the doubt for not having all the information like a television viewer does. But I do also wonder, does John Shire not talk to Mike Krzyzewski at halftime? Like those kinds of things. So there's any number of things. I think what happened last night, you can criticize, but what happened today where they suspended him for indefinitely, and if you also go back and you read the quotes about the Duke program and Mike Krzyzewski saying that's unacceptable, I think he handled it the best way that he could. Now, I do reserve the right to take all that back if this indefinite suspension only means he misses on practice for the next 10 games and he's right back there for Virginia Tech. If Mike Krzyzewski does that, then by all means, go to town on Mike Krzyzewski because the lesson was not learned. And we're going to see another instance where Grayson Allen blows up because you have to get it through his head that that's unacceptable. And when you get into ACC play, man, I'm telling you, players don't want to say this because we asked guys at the Final Four when Grayson Allen was still a big topic of conversation. We were asking guys at the Final Four of like, okay, well, if you know a player can easily combust like that, do you hone in on that? Is that part of the game plan? And, like, they didn't really want to say it, but, look, you guys have done enough interviews. You can tell based on their face, like a little smirk or whatever it is. Like, yeah, they know. They know what's up with Grayson Allen. The coaches know what's up with Grayson Allen, and they're going to hone in on that in ACC play. So that's the thing that you got to be concerned with Grayson Allen, if he gets this lesson or not.
Joe Ovios, 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh. We really appreciate you, man, helping us. I've been crushing Grayson Allen and Duke all day. It's good to have the other side of the argument.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, you got to understand that I'm also on board with the idea that it wasn't acceptable what he did. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe it's just my own wiring. I just have a hard time crushing a college kid. So
you're a better man than me, Joe. You're a better man than me.
Look, you want to crush Draymond Green. Hey, man, we can crush CP3 as well. I mean, I'm all day for that. Kids in college, it is what it is. Hopefully, he'll get it through his head that you can't do it.
Joe, happy holidays, man. Thanks for helping us out.
All right, guys, take it easy.